Welcome to the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Love for you to join us live online. You go to the website, thebibleforum.net. Click the link and get you signed up so that you get an email on Saturday that tells you what the topics are going to be. I have an article here I've entitled, It Makes Complete Sense. It's from Doug Casey's International Communique, and it's about, in a sense, the coronavirus. Coronavirus is not a new thing, apparently. It's been known to virologists for some time. It's a seasonal virus that mutates somewhat each year. In the past, it's routinely been dealt with through treatments that are both cheap and plentiful. And yet somehow the release of corona in its latest mutation has been co-opted to justify a social and economic shutdown in over 100 countries. This is something that I've been telling people since it began. 80,000 people died in America 2 years ago from the flu. We don't know about last year yet, but it's over 40,000. Why did we get so bent out of shape this year? Well, because we heard about it. The knockout effects of this shutdown have included, in the U.S. alone, a stock market crash, closures of major food producers, breaking down the food supply chain, depleted supermarket shelves, similar to Venezuela in some locations, 26 million people filing for unemployment benefits within a 5-week period, long-proven coronavirus treatments being described as risky and untested, with the insistence that only a vaccine that may take 18 months to produce can be considered viable for treatment. The economy in free fall, the ramping up of economic threats against China as punishment for the presumed Wuhan origin of the virus, the two political parties disagreeing dramatically over the handling of this emergency, both agreeing that any recovery must begin with greater powers for the government and a dramatic loss of freedoms for the populace. And all this because a common seasonal virus that has been known to researchers for years, although not in this form, broke forth. It seems viruses morph, and scientists know that. And we should bear in mind that more than 99% of those who catch it are likely to make a full recovery. Children seem to be almost totally immune to its effects. And frontline doctors are reporting that the, quote, presumed positive cases and presumed deaths are greatly exaggerated beyond the actual. Yet Bill Gates has stated repeatedly that things won't go back to normal until we have a vaccine that we've gotten out to basically the entire world. This message, although it has been backed by no scientific basis whatever, proffered by someone with no medical training whatever, has been echoed daily by the media as gospel. And in spite of the fact that the rhetoric in the media doesn't in any way add up, the propaganda machine keeps rolling, further fueling irrational fears. So what could possibly be the reason for this worldwide drama if it was inherently unnecessary? Well, to answer the dilemma, we might wish to ask a well-known fictional detective. His name is Sherlock Holmes. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, author of the Sherlock Holmes mysteries, was in the habit of having Sherlock say, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So, if we put aside the immense amount of noise surrounding the government's handling of the coronavirus and look only at the outcome of the policies that are being created, what do we see? Well, we see the chances are high that certain gold stocks could quickly soar 5 or 10 times or more higher, but only if you choose the best companies among the over 2,000 mining stocks. We also see that several of the world's governments have tossed inalienable rights aside on a wholesale basis and awarded to themselves the authority to decide over any future reinstatement. In their wake, very possibly out of fear and surprise, over 100 otherwise well-meaning countries fell into step and did the same. The essence of all this is that essential freedoms are no longer exist. In place, we now have permissions. In future, governments may very well determine who may or may not work, who may or may not socialize in groups or travel. They may also establish the rules under which these permissions will be allowed. This, we are being told, is in the interest of the common good. And those who fail to comply, they can expect to have their wings clipped, denied permission. Since this is ultimately the outcome of the existing illogical handling of the virus, Sherlock might advise us that far from being confusing, it all makes perfect sense. You see, we are told that all forms of the present quarantine are for the common good, that there can be a partial reopening of the economy, but that this can be allowed only if personal freedoms are permanently lost. Interaction with others will be restricted. Travel will only be by permission. Everyone must be vaccinated, and if too many people fail to comply, a return to lockdown may very well be necessary. In those countries that once comprised the free world, such a development is unprecedented. Never has a country in the former free world taken over the entire economy, taking upon itself the authority to decide whether or not the populace can freely associate, work, or travel. This quarantine is the very definition of tyranny. Dressing it up as a necessary solution to a pandemic does not in any way change that fact. For those who are unconvinced, it may be helpful to take a step back and clarify the terms under discussion. You see, quarantine is when you restrict the movement of sick people. Tyranny is when you restrict the movement of healthy people. Tyranny now exists, and it has been accomplished very quickly with the tacit approval of the populace, under the assumption that it will be temporary. But as Milton Friedman quipped, quote, "Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program," end of quote. And in fact, we've been told that we will not be going back to normal. The greatest hope that anyone may entertain is that over time, those rulers who have pulled off this coup will at some point deign to relinquish a portion of the tyranny that has been imposed. Unfortunately, if we focus on what the outcome of the corona scare will be, rather than on the interim rhetoric, it does all make complete sense, doesn't it?